Which one of you would hand his son a stone when he asked for a loaf of bread, or a snake when he asked for a fish? To put it bluntly, many of your parents would. They already have. When your parents gave you your own smartphone without any oversights, when they let you take unregulated internet devices into your room at night unsupervised, they have given you a snake instead of a fish. Maybe some of you have managed to avoid being bitten despite that. But many of you have been bitten, poisoned by distraction, by violence, by false information, and poisoned by, you know what I'm hinting at, but won't say in front of fourth graders, though sadly even some of them know the poison I'm talking about. Do not get me wrong. Snakes are an important part of many ecosystems. Smartphones and internet are powerful and useful tools. But both of them are dangerous if we forget what they are and where they belong. They are especially dangerous when you hand them to a child who is looking for a fish, to a child who just wants meaningful interaction with other people. I'm not saying this like I'm better than you. Oh, those dang kids and their devices. It was better back in my day. Not really. It was different. I got my first cell phone in high school, and I didn't get a smartphone until I was 26. But I did grow up with internet access. At first, it was the computer in the office with dial-up. But by the end of high school, I had a laptop with unrestricted access. Kids in my day may have had to work a little harder to get into trouble, but we still managed. And even though I didn't grow up with a smartphone, even though I wasn't addicted as a kid, I still have to be careful. I am 34 years old and a priest, but I don't even trust myself completely with unrestricted access to this device. There are programs on here that limit how long I can use certain apps and what I can access. I don't go looking for trouble, but I know how easy it is to run into anyway, so I have safeguards in place. Why? Because it's a snake. You can handle it safely if you're careful. So I'm not saying the internet is evil and that we should all smash our smartphones right now. I'm not lecturing you kids about how terrible your generation is. I know some of you have figured out things that we have missed. I think your generation is going to surprise all of us because you've inherited quite the mess. You know firsthand some of what is at stake. If anything, I wish more parents were here so I could tell them that giving you unrestricted access to the internet, especially in your room alone at night, is a mortal sin. It is a grave form of carelessness. Yes, most of you will survive. Some of you might even remain innocent. But it is a risk that should never be taken. Maybe you asked for a fish and were given a snake. Maybe you asked for the snake outright. It still shouldn't have been given to you unrestricted. But God is greater than all of that. All parents fall short, though most of them really are trying to do what's right. The point of Jesus' parable is not that you have bad parents. It's that God is an infinitely better father than any of our earthly parents could be. Not only would God never deceive us, he would never give us rocks in place of bread or snakes in place of fish. He won't even give us the rocks and snakes when we ask for them. And after we go and get those rocks and snakes on our own against his will, he'll even help us get rid of them and repair the damage we've done. God told Adam and Eve not to eat the fruit because he knew it would kill them. They took it anyway. But God did not abandon them. He sent his son into the mess we made so that he could take that mess on himself, die from it, and rise again in order to lead us out of it once and for all. That's what Lent is about. It's about looking to Jesus Christ, who stepped into our rocky, snake-filled mess. It's about learning from him that our Father really does want what's best for us. Learning that we can trust him and that prayer really makes a difference if we don't give up. Ask, seek, knock for whatever you think you want. But don't forget that unlike earthly parents, God will only give us what is good. I promise you, there are things you think are bad that are actually good for you. And there are things that you think are good that are actually bad for you. And there is no way to avoid the difficulty and pain of learning that lesson and fixing that misunderstanding. But trusting in God and persevering in prayer is the only way through that mess. So yes, pray more this Lent. Pray hard, pray with trust, annoy God with your prayers. As for the Lenten sacrifices, I think you know what I'm going to suggest. Most of you won't be able to go all the way, but I'll still suggest it. If you do not have a car or a driver's license, you don't need a phone, because you will always be around someone who has it. If you can step up to this challenge, I challenge you, ditch your phone for Lent, if you can. Still, life is complicated, and a lot of you either can't or won't do that. Some of you probably shouldn't, even if you could. But you must learn to keep that snake in its proper place. So here's a few practical suggestions for smartphone use in Lent and beyond. Number 1, do not keep your phone where you can reach it from your bed. It disrupts your sleep, and I promise you there's a whole lot of problems you avoid if you can't reach it. When you go to sleep, put your phone where you have to get up and walk to reach it. If you use it as an alarm clock, I do, this actually makes the alarm clock better. Even better, buy an actual alarm clock and keep the phone out of the room. Ideally, your parents should take your phone away from you every night at 9 p.m. And if they don't, maybe ask them to start. It's the cross, y'all. Step up. I promise you it's worth it. Number 2, set restrictions. There are quite a few apps that help with this. They can kick you off of Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, and whatever else after whatever time limit. Mine is set that after about 5 minutes of Instagram videos, it kicks me off for 2 hours. I can check in, watch a little, and then get booted before I lose track of time and spend 3 hours with my ADD brain crack-focused on things that don't matter. It also cuts me off at 9:15 to make me go to bed. Look, you guys don't have to do that exact limit. I'm not saying my model is the only way, but I'm giving you the point. I need that help. I'm 34 years old and a priest, and I run a parish. They trust me to budget hundreds of thousands of dollars, and I can't trust myself with this stupid little device without help. Do it. Put restrictions. They can block apps and websites. They can track how long you use it so you know what's going on. Here's a pro tip. Give the password to someone else so you can't get around it. Just turn off the app. No. Put the restrictions in place because we need the help. Number 3, and this is related to number 2, get support. Find a friend or two who also wants to control their habits, who wants to use this tool without being controlled by it. Hold each other accountable. Ask each other about your phone habits. Tell each other about your mistakes and your falls. Encourage each other to keep trying. Share tips and tricks. This kind of vulnerability and accountability is crucial to growing in virtue. No one gets to heaven without accountability. It might be the phone, it might be something else, but you need to practice the ability of being vulnerable to another person who can call you to be your best self. It's also a great way to make that friendship better. When I admitted my problems and sought help from my friends, I found better friends. And they made me a better friend. The bottom line is this: God is good, and he wants to give you what is good, even in a degree what this can offer. We fallen human beings all too often cling to the wrong things, so we aren't open to what he wants to give us. For most of us, devices and the internet play that role. Lent is a time to train ourselves to let go of what we don't need, and a time to learn to regulate and moderate those things we do need. A time to create space to encounter the loving Father who gives good things, real good, to those who ask him.